He was a soldier haunted by the ghosts of war, struggling to survive in a world that didn't understand him. But for just $10, he adopted an injured German Shepherd. And what that dog did next would heal his broken heart and change both their lives forever. John hadn't been the same since he returned from war. The bright, familiar world he once knew felt distant, foreign. Each day felt like a battle against a war that had no end. The PTSD gripped him in ways that no one could understand. The nightmares would come, dragging him out of sleep in cold sweats, his heart pounding in his chest as though the fight wasn't over. He would wake up in the dead of night, hands trembling, eyes wide, still seeing flashes of a past he couldn't escape. His friends and family tried to help, but nothing worked. They didn't get it. No one could. He became a shell of himself, living in isolation. Social settings made him uneasy. The crowds, the noise, it all overwhelmed him. People said it was normal for soldiers to struggle, but that didn't make it any easier. John felt like a ghost, trapped in his own body, unable to find peace. One afternoon, as he walked down the street to clear his mind, he noticed an old, injured German Shepherd lying in the grass beside the sidewalk. The dog was thin, dirty, and looked like it had been through hell. Something inside John stirred. He didn't know why, but he felt a pull. Maybe it was the dog's eyes. Maybe it was the shared sense of pain. Whatever it was, he couldn't just walk away. John stood there for a moment, staring down at the dog. The animal's ribs were visible beneath its matted fur, its leg twisted awkwardly, and it let out a soft whimper, too tired to even lift its head. John had seen enough pain in his life, but there was something about the dog that mirrored his own brokenness. He bent down, slowly, careful not to startle it, and gently touched the dog's head. The look in its eyes wasn't just one of fear, it was one of surrender, like it had given up on hope. John didn't have much to offer, but something compelled him to act. He walked over to the small shelter nearby. Inside, a sign read, $10 adoption fee for injured animals. John hesitated for a moment, his mind spinning. A $10 bill was all he had in his pocket. It wasn't a lot, but it was enough to give this dog a chance. The idea of taking the dog home seemed absurd. He was barely keeping his own life together, but somehow, he couldn't let the dog suffer. The shelter worker handed him a leash and a small paperwork folder. "He's yours now," the worker said with a smile. "Take care of him." John nodded, his heart racing. He didn't know why he was doing this, but as the dog limped alongside him, he felt something stir inside of him, something he hadn't felt in a long time. Purpose. It was just $10, but to him, it felt like the beginning of something life-changing. The first few days were awkward. John didn't know how to care for a dog, let alone an injured one. He wasn't sure where to start. The dog, he hadn't even named it yet, was quiet, just like him. It slept on an old blanket John had found in the back of his truck, its leg still sore but no longer bleeding. John would sit on the floor nearby, watching TV or reading, but his mind was always elsewhere, lost in the noise of his own thoughts. The dog, however, remained calm. It wasn't overly affectionate or demanding. It just stayed near him, never leaving his side. As the days passed, John began noticing little changes. The dog would follow him around the house, walking slowly but determined. There was something peaceful in that simple act. The dog didn't need words to show it cared. It just was there. In the silence that filled John's life, the dog became the only presence that didn't feel overwhelming. It was a quiet comfort, and John started talking to it, though he wasn't sure why. He shared his frustrations, his anger, his sadness. The dog never responded, but John didn't need it to. Its eyes were always there, unwavering, as if it understood everything. Then one night, after a particularly rough nightmare, John woke in a cold sweat, his heart racing. He could barely breathe. His mind was back in the war, reliving the chaos. But as he gasped for air, he felt something nudge him, gently, yet insistently. He turned to see the dog, its head resting on the edge of the bed, eyes soft but focused. In that moment, something in John's chest loosened. The dog didn't need to do anything but be present. That was enough. One evening, John decided to take Max for a walk in the park. He hadn't done anything like this in months, but something about Max's unwavering presence made him feel like he could try. The air was cool, the park nearly empty, just a few joggers in the distance. It was supposed to be a quiet evening. But that night, something shifted. As they walked along the path, John felt a familiar weight on his chest, the creeping tightness, the breathlessness. He stopped for a moment, trying to steady himself, but the panic was already setting in. His vision blurred, and his thoughts raced. He could feel himself slipping. Every muscle in his body screamed at him to run, to escape, but he didn't know where to go. The noise in his head was deafening, and for the first time in a long time, he didn't know how to breathe. Max, who had been walking calmly at his side, suddenly stopped. The dog looked up at John, his eyes alert, sensing the change in the air. Without hesitation, Max barked once, loud and sharp. The sound startled John, snapping him out of his spiral, just enough to catch his breath. A jogger, hearing the bark, slowed down and approached them. "Hey, are you okay?" she asked, concern written on her face. John, embarrassed but grateful, nodded weakly. Max sat by his side, his body steady and calm, as if he knew John needed help. That moment was a turning point. Max wasn't just a dog. He was John's lifeline, instinctively guiding him through the darkness. And for the first time in months, John felt like he wasn't alone. As the weeks went by, John began to realize something profound. Max wasn't just a companion. He was the anchor in a storm of emotions that John had been struggling to navigate for years. Every time John felt overwhelmed, whether by memories from the war or the weight of his own thoughts, Max seemed to know exactly what to do. The dog's presence was a constant reassurance, like an unspoken promise that no matter what, he wouldn't have to face it alone. John slowly started to open up to those around him. The therapy sessions, which had once felt like an impossible task, became more bearable. He began talking more, not just about his experiences, but about the small victories, like taking Max out for walks without feeling the crushing anxiety that had once kept him confined to his home. It was through Max's simple, unwavering support that John found the strength to face the world again. John couldn't believe how much his life had changed since adopting Max. What had seemed like a small decision, paying $10 to adopt an injured dog, had turned into a life-altering bond. He realized that Max had given him something he couldn't have found on his own: hope. And now, for the first time in a long time, John was beginning to believe in the possibility of a future, one step at a time.